Hi, good day. This is Miss LM and we're back again for another math video, and today we're going to talk about linear function. In this video, we are going to define linear function and also determine whether the given equation can be considered as linear function or not. So now let's have the definition of linear function. Okay, so what is a linear function? It is in the form of f of x is equals to mx plus b or y is equals to mx plus b. So that means you're familiar with this. But the thing is, meron tayong panibagong representation nito. Ito po, kilala na natin to. And this is the equation of a line in the slope-intercept form. And it could be written as f of x is equals to mx plus b. So when it comes to linear function, kadalasan po, ganito yung makikita natin. Again, f of x is equals to mx plus b. Still, yung m, ibig sabihin po noon, ay slope pa din. And then yung b is the y-intercept. X means this is the independent variable and this is the one that we manipulate to get the different results of y. While y is the dependent variable and it is the one we are solving. So once na meron value for x, pwede natin tong i-substitute sa equation and then the result will be y value that is considered as one of the element of the range. Okay? Another is that f of x is equals to mx plus b is known as function notation. Again, pag sinabi pong f of x is equals to mx plus b, kilala ito as function notation. So this means y is a function of x and that y depends on x. And this is read as f of x. And minsan g yan o kaya p. So papalitan lang natin yung nandito which is p of x, g of x. But kadalasan po makikita nyo siya as f of x and g of x. Another thing that we have to remember is that linear function is a function whose graph is a straight line. So when we say straight line, hindi po ito kagaya nung given natin on the other video about domain and range. So dito po kailangan straight line lang. That means it could be upward from left to right or downward from left to right or horizontal line. Bakit hindi pwede ang vertical line? Because we are talking about function. And when we say function, there is no x that is repeating. And we all know kapag vertical line po, hindi po ito papasa sa vertical line test. So, it's not a linear function. So, now, which of the following functions is linear? Alin nga ba dito ang pwedeng makonsider as linear or hindi? So, first, y is equals to negative 3x plus 1. Is this a linear function or not? So, yes, this is a linear function. Okay, so why do we consider this as a linear function? Again, pasok po siya dun sa ating definition wherein we have an equation that is in the form of slope-intercept form. Y is equals to mx plus b. Another, number 2, y is equals to x over 2 minus 7. Can we consider this as linear function or not? Yes, again, this is a linear function. And as you can see, x over 2 can be formed as 1 half x minus 7. So, naka-slope-intercept form pa din po siya. Number 3, y is equals to 5x. Is this a linear function or no? So yes, again, this is a linear function. Ang b could be considered as 0. 5 is our slope and this is still in the form of slope-intercept form. How about number 4? Y is equals to 1 over x plus 4. Can we consider this as linear function or not? The answer is it is not a linear function. Why? Because the denominator here is our variable x and ang slope po natin ay hindi po pwedeng magkaroon ng variable sa ating denominator. We cannot form this as 1 over 1x, right? So, hindi siya mapo-form as slope-intercept form. That is why this is not a linear function. Number 5. 2x minus y is equals to 4. Can we consider this as linear function? So, the answer is yes, linear function siya. Why? Kasi even though ito ay naka-standard form na equation, we can still form it as slope-intercept form of an equation. And also, since naka-slope-intercept form na siya, kaya natin siyang i-write as function notation. Okay? Number 6, y is equals to x squared minus 5. Can we consider this as linear function or no? The answer is no. So, it is not a linear function. Bakit kaya? Because meron tayong term na naka-squared. And pag sinabi po nating linear function, linear siya, ibig sabihin ang highest exponent ng ating variable ay 1 lamang. And since may squared tayo dito, hindi na po siya considered as linear equation or linear function. Okay? Another, number 7. We have here this graph. Is this a graph that is a straight line and meron ba tayong upward from left to right or downward from left to right na nakikita or horizontal? So, 7, this graph is considered as a function. Kasi nga po, upward from left to right siya. Meron tayong slope, meron tayong x and y intercept, and hindi po nauulit yung ating x values. Ano po, pasok siya sa vertical line test. Another, number 8. We have here this graph, and as you can see, is this a straight line? line. So, hindi naman siya straight line. So, automatically, this is not a linear function. And itong ganitong graph po ay makikita pa ninyo by grade 10, which is a polynomial function. Number 9, we have this graph. And is this considered as linear function? The answer is no. It's also not a linear function. Why? Because it is not a straight line. At ang tawag naman natin dito ay parabola. And then number 10, we have this line downward from left to right. Yes, linear function siya. May slope, meron y-intercept, x-intercept, straight line siya. And isang beses lang siya madadaan ng ating vertical line, no repeating x value. So, linear function siya. So, that's how we determine a linear function from the given equation and also from the graph. Okay? Now, let's write the following linear function into function notation. So, first, we have here y is equals to negative 3x plus 1. So, again, papalitan natin yung y ng f of x and then equals to mx plus b or negative 3x plus 1. That's how we are going to write this into function notation. Another, y is equals to x over 2 minus 7. So, we can write it as f of x is equals to x over 2 minus 7 or 1 half x minus 7. Another, y is equals to 5x. Ito po ay naka-slope intercept form pero wala siyang b kasi 0 yung b natin. So, plus 0 yon. But still, we can write it as function notation as f of x is equals to 5x. Another, 2x minus y is equals to 4. In this case, naka-standard form siya. Gawin muna natin siyang slope-intercept form. Additive inverse of positive 2x is negative 2x. And then, divide natin both sides by negative 1 para makancel po itong negative ni y. Magiging positive y and then positive na rin si 2x. Magiging negative naman po si 4. So, ito na po yung ating slope-intercept form and then we can form it now as function notation. F of x is equals to 2x minus 4. So, next, we have here, let's give some value of x to each function to determine the y values. So, in some cases po, domain yung given, which is set of all x values. But, you still have to be familiar with this representation. So, f of negative 2, f of 0, f of positive 5. This means that the value of x that must be substituted to linear function is negative 2, 0, and 5. Okay? This means for f of negative 2, magkakaroon tayo ng negative 3 times 2 plus 1. And negative 3 times 2 is negative 6 plus 1. That is negative 5. So for f of negative 2, the answer is negative 5. Now, for f of 0, negative 3 times 0 plus 1, that is 0 plus 1, which is equals to 1. So, for f of 0, the answer is positive 1. Then the last one, f of 5, negative 3 times 5 plus 1. So, that means negative 15 plus 1 is equals to negative 14. So, for f of negative 15, the answer is negative 14. Okay, so let's have another one. We have here f of x is equals to x over 2 minus 7. So, if the value of x that we have to substitute are negative 4, also positive 8, and positive 16, what will be the result for f of negative 4? That means negative 4 divided by 2 minus 7. And negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2 minus 7. So, keep change. Magkakaroon po tayo ng negative 2 plus negative 7. So, the answer is negative 9. For f of negative 4, the answer is negative 9 or y is equals to negative 9. Another, f of 8. So, ang gagawin po, substitute natin sa x. 8 over 2 minus 7. 8 over 2 means 8 divided by 2. That is 4. 4 minus 7, that is negative 3. So, for f of 8, the answer is negative 3. So, kapag daw ang x ay 8, ang output daw nito ay negative 3. And then, for the last item here, we have 16. So, 16 divided by 2 minus 7. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And 8 minus 7 is equals to 1. So, for f of 16, the answer is positive 1. For the input 16, the output will be positive 1. Okay? Next, another linear function. If we have the value of x as negative 3, and then we have 1/5, and also if we have 25, what will be the value of y or the f of x of the following? For f of negative 3, that means 5 times negative 3, and that is negative 15. So here we have negative 15. Next, f of 1/5. So we have 5 times 1/5, So, 5 over 1 yan. Magka-cancel out tayo. Matitira na lang po ay 1. So, this means f of 1/5 is 1. If our x is 1/5, the y is 1. Then, the last f of 25. So, that means 5 times 25. The answer is 125. So, f of 25 is 125. Next, let us have 2x minus y is equals to 4, or in function notation, again, naka-standard form, ginawang slope-intercept form, then nire-write into function notation. F of x is equals to 2x minus 4, and if x values are negative 4, positive 2, and 3 over 4, what will be the value of y? So, doon na tayo sa f of negative 4. That means, ang atin pong isa-substitute sa x ay negative 4. 2 times negative 4 minus 4, that is negative 8 minus 4. And again, negative 8 minus 4 means negative 8 plus negative 4. And that is negative 12. So for f of negative 4, that is negative 12. Next is the f of 2. So if the value of x daw is 2, we have 2 times 2 minus 4. 2 times 2 is 4 minus 4, that is 0. For f of 2, ang magiging y daw ay 0, or the function of 2 is 0. Then the last one, we have f of 3 over 4. Then substitute natin, we have 2 times 3 over 4. And itong 2 natin is 2 over 1. When multiplied to 3 over 4, we can cancel this out. Divisible sila both by 2. So this will become 1 and this will become 2. So magkakaroon tayo ng 1 times 3 and then 1 times 2, and that is 3 over 2. Combine it with negative 4, magkakaroon po tayo ng 3 over 2 minus 8 over 2. To form the whole number into a fraction, you have to multiply it by the LCD. So 8 over 2. And now 3 minus 8, that is 5 over 2. And then sign of the greater value, that is negative. So for the f of 3/4, the answer is negative 5 over 2. So again, to get the value of y given the value of x, you just need to substitute that value to our linear function or equation and then solve it properly to arrive at the correct y values. Okay, so next we have here, describe the graph of the linear function. Okay, so we have here y is equals to 1/2 x minus 3. How are we going to describe the graph? So, ito po yung ating graph dito. Again, this is a slope-intercept form, and when we say y is equals to 1/2 x minus 3, that means we have here f of x is equals to 1/2 x minus 3. And same po siya kagaya kung paano tayo nag-graph ng linear equation before. So, in this case, ganun pa rin, meron tayong y-intercept is negative 3, and then the slope is 1/2, so we can use that to plot the points. So we have negative 3 and then 1 unit upward and 2 units to the right, or 1 unit downward, 2 units to the left. Then draw the line, and again, continuous na po yung line natin up to negative infinity and positive infinity. Ano po yung trend? How are we going to describe the trend? So ito po ay upward from left to right kasi siya ay positive slope. And then, what is the x-intercept? Saan nga po ba nag-intersect yung line natin sa mismo x-axis? And that is positive 6. Okay, next is the domain and range of this graph. So, in this case, dahil nga po ang line natin is may arrow on both sides, that means it is extended up to negative infinity and positive infinity, right? Kahit si domain at si range, pareho po yung negative infinity and positive infinity. And again, parenthesis po yung ginagamit natin. And we can also write it as x is an element of real number. So, kahit ano yung isubstitute natin sa x, pwede po yun. And also sa y, real number din po yung kalalabasan niya. Kaya lang, we also have to take note that y should be equals to 1/2 x minus 3. Kasi may rule tayo or may equation tayo na sinusunod. Okay, next we have x plus y is equals to negative 7, and we can rewrite this as slope-intercept form, right? We have to look for the additive inverse of x, and that is negative x. So, add it on both sides of the equation, magkakaroon ng y is equals to negative x minus 7. And from here, we can write it as function notation, which is f of x is equals to negative x minus 7. So, from here, we can write the slope, the trend, the y-intercept, and the x-intercept. Ano po yung slope natin? Yun po yung numerical coefficient ni x, which is negative 1. Or, we can also write it as negative 1 over 1. For the trend, since ito po ay negative, the line will be downward from left to right. Okay, so next is the y-intercept. According sa slope-intercept form, y-intercept is negative 7. But how about the x-intercept? So from our main equation, again, we can use the x and y-intercept pa rin naman yung natutunan natin before. I-apply din po natin ngayon dito. To get the x-intercept, what we are going to do is to let y is equals to 0. So if ito po ay 0, matitira na lang ay x, and x is also equals to negative 7. And if we're going to graph that, meron tayong dalawa ngayong paraan kung paano mag-graph. It's either by slope-intercept or by x and y-intercept. So for x and y-intercept, we have to plot negative 7 on our y and also negative 7 on our x. Also, we can use the slope, 1 unit upward, 1 unit to the left, or 1 unit downward, 1 unit to the right. Then now, we're going to connect these 4 points by a line. Ayan. So, yung line natin, again, continuous po yan. And since continuous po yan, again, negative infinity up to positive infinity po, both the domain and range. Or in other words, ang atin pong x ay element of real number, while our y is also element of real number, but do not forget that y should be equals to negative x minus 7. Kasi meron po tayong equation na sinusunod. Next, we have here x plus 1 half y is equals to 3. And since siya ay naka-standard form pa, we have to rewrite it first as slope-intercept form. And as you can see, meron tayong numerical coefficient dito na fraction. So, we have to eliminate the denominator by multiplying the whole equation by the LCD. And ang LCD po natin is yung denominator mismo, which is positive 2. So, 2 times x is 2x. And then 1 half y times 2 is 1y or simply y, and then 3 times 2 is positive 6. And then we have to add the additive inverse of positive 2x, and that's negative 2x on both sides of the equation para maging slope-intercept form siya. So, dito sa left, makakancel out na siya, magiging y na lang. Then dito sa right, magkakaroon tayo ng negative 2x plus 6. And as you can see, meron na tayong slope-intercept form na pwede nating i-write as function notation. So, f of x is equals to negative 2x plus 6. And from this equation, pwede na po nating ma-identify ang slope, ang trend, at ang y-intercept. And also the x-intercept using the original equation given. So, for the slope, ano po yung numerical coefficient ng ating x? We have negative 2. Or, we can write it as negative 2 over 1. The trend, since negative po yung slope, we all know na ito po ay downward from left to right. And then, y-intercept po ay ang positive 6. Then, for the x-intercept naman po, again, we can use the original equation. We let y is equals to 0, matitira lang po ay x, and x is equals to positive 3. Now, we have to plot the points. We can start with the y-intercept or the x-intercept. Depende po sa kung saan nyo po gusto mag-umpisa since meron naman na po tayong data. So, we have the y-intercept which is 6. The x-intercept is 3. We can also use the slope, negative 2 over 1, 2 units upward, 1 unit to the left, or 2 units downward, 1 unit to the right. Then, connect these dots or points to form the graph of the linear function. Now, from here, again, if we are going to write the domain and the range, wala naman po tayong ibang domain, kundi lahat po sila, kasi nga po ay extended yung line natin up to infinity. Again, kung interval po yung hihingiin, meron tayong negative infinity up to positive infinity sa domain, and also dun din po sa range. Ayan. Negative infinity up to positive infinity. Or, we can write it as x is the element of real number, any real number. And then for y, it is the set of all y that are elements of real number. But, again, we have to remember that it should be equals to negative 2x plus 6. Okay? For the last example, we have here y plus 2 is equals to 3. As you can see here, meron naman tayong y, nawawala lang yung ating term with x variable. So, we can still form this as slope-intercept form, okay? Yun nga lang, yung slope natin is 0 na, right? So, y plus 2 is equals to 3. How are we going to form this as slope-intercept form? Additive inverse of positive 2, and that's negative 2. So, y is equals to 3 minus 2, and 3 minus 2 is equals to 1. And in function notation, we have f of x is equals to 1. Now, what will be our slope here? So, we have 0. Ang trend natin, syempre siya ay horizontal line lang po dahil 0 yung ating slope. Y-intercept is, syempre ito po siya, yung ating 1. Then for the x-intercept, so do you think may x-intercept tayo? Syempre wala po kasi nga po horizontal line po yung meron tayo. So to graph this linear function, y-intercept is +1, so plot it on our y-axis, and then for the line, since the slope is 0, we have to draw the horizontal line. Okay, so for the domain and range, we are going to describe the horizontal behavior of the line for the domain and then the vertical behavior of the line for our range. Dito muna tayo sa horizontal behavior, and since ang atin pong endpoints ay parehong arrow, again, meron tayong negative infinity up to positive infinity, or x is an element of real number. So, kahit ano po ulit na real number yung sa ating x. For the range, meron po ba tayong vertical change dito? Meron po bang pagbabago sa ating line vertically? 'Di ba po wala? So, dun lang tayo sa point na meron tayo at yun ay ang +1. And how are we going to write that? Gagamit ba tayo ng bracket? Gagamit ba tayo ng parenthesis? Siyempre hindi po dahil nag-iisang point yan, and even though closed point yung meron tayo, hindi natin kailangan gumamit ng bracket. Dahil nag-iisa naman po ito, isusulat natin siya into braces. Okay? So, +1 lang po yung range natin. So, ibig sabihin nito, kahit anong input natin dito sa domain, ang range niya palagi pong magiging 1. Hindi po yon magbabago. Okay? So, that is the last example for this video. I hope you learned something from this video about linear function. Huwag kalimutan pong mag-like, mag-subscribe, at mag-share nitong video. So, keep safe. God bless. Bye-bye!